Up next on Women Talk Live, dating, sex, and the church. And now it's Women Talk Live with April J., Sassy Scribe, and Tyra Hill.
Women Talk Live. Women Talk Live. Women Talk Live. Women Talk. Women Talk Live. Women Talk Live. Women Talk Live. Women Talk. Women Talk Live.
And we're back on Women's Talk Live. I am Sassy Scribe. And when we left, we told you we were going to discuss dating, sex, in the church. And today I have the self-proclaimed bad boy. Who has now, wait a minute, don't laugh. But he's now reformed himself and he counsels the youth on promiscuity. So I want to welcome Rob Kowalski with City Fam. So welcome to Women's Talk Live.
Now I just want to get the first question in. I mean, 5 years, no sex, no nookie, no what? I mean, like nothing.
Yeah, in all fairness, about 2 years ago, I did make a mistake one night. I've been abstinent for 3 years, and I've been abstinent 2 years since. But for the most part, I've been abstinent.
Okay, you fell and you got back up.
Yeah, I tripped.
But for men to do that,
Yeah.
how hard was it? What was it, the turning point in your life that said, I need to stop doing what I'm doing, and then you went from one extreme to the next? Have you always been involved in the church? What made you go from that to the church?
Sporadically as a kid, my grandmother would take me here or there, but my mom wasn't really that involved, so it didn't stick that much when I was young. But I did give my life to the Lord when I was 27. Up until then, I was the most promiscuous person I knew, the guy. And,
Rob. I might could you represent me.
So at that point, I actually stopped having sex for 6 years because I thought I'd meet my soulmate. I was really trying to be obedient because I did believe that what the Bible said was true. And after 6 years, I backslid really hard and went crazy for a few years. And just my life spiraled down and it got really kind of dark. So I rededicated myself in about 5 years ago, and it's been good since. And I've learned some things from living on both extremes, because I've literally slept with hundreds of women, and then I've been abstinent for 5 years, and I really can see very clearly what works and what doesn't work, and no one can even dispute me when I talk about it, because anybody I tell, they're just like, yeah, you're right.
It's your life.
Well, then tell us some of the things that work. I mean, especially in relation to the church. Well, let's back up a little bit. When you counsel the youth, because the way that the kids are nowadays, it's extremely promiscuous. I mean, social media has you sexting and dating and swiping left and swiping right,
Poking.
Poking.
It goes down in the DM. I hate the poke.
So how do you, what's your approach to know? Because kids don't want to listen to us, what do you know?
Yeah, so I actually just talked to the youth at my church the other day, and I just try to break it down for them in ways that they can understand, because pastors are going to tell you, well, you're sinning or you're breaking a commandment, or that all might be true, but if you don't explain it to somebody how it practically affects their life, they ain't going to listen. So what I just say, listen, from my experience, I can share with you and say, there's a reason that 50% of the people in this country get divorced. And that my question then becomes, what percentage of the people that are still married are happy? Because my guess is it's pretty low. I'd say, 20%, maybe lower.
Especially in the church. Yeah, in the church. And Rob, it's so funny that you say that, everything that you said, because I grew up in the church. I come from a religious family. And so we were taught, you just don't have sex. But nobody told us why not. The consequences, the emotions attached to it, I bust the windows out your car, stuff like that comes with the emotions of having sex. But they just said, it's a sin, don't do it. Nobody talked about the soul connections.
Absolutely.
Or just the heartache that comes with it. Because if I could go back and change the hands of time, I would still be a virgin, because I would have knew better, and I would have thought enough of my virginity. See, they scared the hell up out of you. They say if you have sex, you're going to hell. They ain't.
Right.
So you be like,
I think you don't have the conversations. 'Cause, I'm a mother of a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old.
Okay.
And I have real conversations. When
Right.
she started high school, I said, listen, I want you to learn it from me instead of, your little friends who don't know nothing. So, for me, it was just like, and I didn't have that with my mom. My mom gave me a book. We talked about the book. More or less everything I knew, I read. I didn't go by what people told me, but I read.
I didn't talk about sex with
But I was real. I told my daughter straight up. I said, hey, whatever you can get down there, you can get in your mouth. So listen.
Right.
I was real.
Straight
Right.
up with no chase, especially now.
Hey, I'm just saying, you can. I mean, hey, you gotta keep it real with these kids. Yeah, I'm telling you.
They even changed the STDs. It's
Right.
like STDs, STIs.
Right.
Things you can get rid of, things you can't get rid of.
Exactly.
The game has changed completely. That's all I want
It's
to
being
How
responsible.
have you seen social media play into this stuff?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, of course, I think girls look for attention. That's the question. I read a great book recently called Wild at Heart, and it says the question that women ask is, am I lovely? And men ask, do I have what it takes? And both try to answer that question in different ways. And sometimes, it can get really sketchy, like girls are, obviously posting pictures of themselves trying to get attention and the wrong kind of attention. And guys, are trying to sleep with girls to prove that they're a man, especially guys without a strong father figure around. But
That's another show.
yeah.
That's another show we want to talk. Now, it's just not just women. I mean men, but it's also women that have that same issue,
Right.
Which is what's going on with a lot of promiscuity. Now.
That's why I was promiscuous. I didn't have that constant father figure. Like, as a father, your father should be the first one to tell you how beautiful you are. He should be the first one to court you, to show you how a man is supposed to handle you. But when you don't have that father in the house and you're a daddyless daughter, the first man to tell you you're beautiful, he becomes your daddy. And so that's where my mind was, because I was looking for love in all the wrong places until I figured out who I was in Christ. And don't be acting like I don't know Christ because you heard me say cuss words.
Tell us about once you started this. What made you start City Fam? So what was it about?
So yeah, basically when I started making right decisions, I had a really active social life before I gave my heart to the Lord, and then I had no social life, nothing to do on the weekends, and I was lonely and bored, and to be honest, that's part of the reason I actually backslid in 2006 was the year I really started to backslide, because I just wanted to be around people, so I started going to the clubs again.
You started drinking again.
Started drinking, started sleeping around, just became like the person I was before becoming a Christian. So by 2011, I got 2 DUIs. I'd made a complete mess of my life, and I rededicated my life to the Lord. And again, I just stayed in on the weekends because I didn't know what to do with myself, and thought, wow, this is a major obstacle forget God even, just anybody wanting to make positive changes, like how do you do it? I know people that want to quit drinking, and what they do is that they'll just get into a relationship, which presents a whole nother set of problems down the road.
Because you haven't addressed that main
If you're just dating out of loneliness, then you got other issues down the road. So I was like, man, this got to be a better way to do this. So we started getting people together, just fun without regrets, and when you got healthy relationships with members of the opposite sex, with members of the same sex, I mean, like just good friends, but members of the opposite sex, life is really good, So that's what City Fam was about, and then we actually volunteer, we go out, we give back to our community.
Is it diverse?
As far as
everything, men, women.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of singles, just because I'm single, I think, so I think it's kind of taken on my personality somewhat.
That's your calling.
Yeah.
He didn't give you to marry people because you're not there yet.
Yeah.
But we need people like you in the forefront to show us how to get through it. You can tell me not to have sex all day, but the moral of the story is it still tingles. You get what I'm saying? You have those emotions, you have those feelings. And that's my problem with the church. You can tell us not to do it, not to have sex, you're not supposed to do this, you're not supposed to do that, but give us the effective tools to not do it.
Right.
And so I'm excited to hear about what do you teach the youth.
Right.
What are some of the tools?
Because the church they preach at you. And that's what I don't like. They preach at you. And they listen, my mom's a pastor. She's, I grew up in the church just like you. And for me, it's just like, not that I don't support her, but to me, it's like, you go into church, you can't wear this, you can't do this, you can't do, and I was just like, I had to have that conversation with like, this really isn't for me. I had to go, it's like, and I didn't feel like it should be that way. I want to go somewhere where, like you said, I don't feel like I'm being talked at or talked down to or saying you going to hell because of this, that, and the other. No, I mean, be there to have those, conversations. Yeah.
I think the African American churches, and some of my people might be mad at me when I say this, but I can say this. African American churches are gun-ho on the dress. I fellowship with multicultural churches, and we go to church looking like Rob, jeans, t-shirt, and the worship is so pure. You don't get to see the big hats, and I'm not knocking the African American church, but I'm just saying, I've been to African American churches that have signs on the windows that says pants are not allowed in here. You get what I'm saying? So I think it's more of the African American church that has the structure on how you come. I've been to churches all over this world, and I'm telling you, all of the non-denominational churches, they don't care if you come up in there with khaki shorts on, flip-flops, and
You
t-shirts.
shouldn't be worried about what you look like. You're there to hear the word anyway.
Exactly.
But what are some of the things you say to the youth? Like, give us
Yeah.
3 key points that you counsel them on.
So one thing is, I talk about sex masking problems. So, and this is as much for adults as it is for the kids, is because if you're having sex in a relationship, you're never really forced to examine the real issues, right? Because you're giving each other what you need. You might wonder if you're in love with the person or if you can spend the rest of your life, but you never really look. And I know this from experience. My last relationship, we were having sex was good. Terrible relationship, the sex was good. But in the middle of it, I started wondering if we were in love, so I cut off the sex. I said, this is how we're going to find out. Because guess what? When you cut off the sex, you got to look. Because it's like this. I want to have sex again. And I know you want to have sex again. And if we're really in love, let's just get married. But if we're not in love, let's stop wasting each other's effing time. Because I wasted 5 years with my first girlfriend because we were having sex. And I couldn't, it was like soul ties, like you said. I couldn't break up with her. So
how many times did you break up and go back?
Well, the last girlfriend, it might have been 20. Serious, it was like 20 times. And I learned, I'm like, it's because people get into physical relationships. And here's the other thing, the physical fades. For me, I dated beautiful girls, and I didn't even want to have sex with them. I would have just rather had gone to sleep every night. And there's a saying that goes, show me the hottest girl in the world and I'll show you a guy that's tired of sleeping with her. And that's terrible, but there's some truth in it, because when you lead with physical attraction and you sleep with somebody quick, the average American goes on 3 dates before sleeping with someone.
That's true.
So when you sleep with somebody quick that you don't know, then it's like the universe, God played a trick on us to say, if you're going to go in with physical attraction, guess what? Now you're not even going to want it. Because when you don't connect on a deeper level, the physical stuff just fades and you don't even want it.
You know what, that's why women, and you see it all the time, women seeing on Facebook, like, look at her and I'm still single. Because for whatever reason, she said something to him and he didn't see the physicalness. She wasn't as beautiful as the normal girlfriends or girls that you see her with. She didn't have the body that he's normally with. She didn't have that look that he's normally with. Because she spoke to something in here and here. So they learned how to be more of a sapiosexual. Which is what people should do. This is the biggest part of our body, the most erogenous part of our body is our brain. And if men and women would learn to talk to each other and understand that, the physical will come once you get that sapiosexual attraction, once you stimulate that mind and that brain. So, but it took you 20 times.
Because even though you're celibate, because there's a difference between abstinence.
I like abstinent because I'm abstaining.
That's why I was like abstinence. That's why I was saying it. There's a difference between celibacy, abstinence. But I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
Do you get the teenagers that ask you, because they always ask me this, Miss Tyra, is masturbation a sin?
Right.
What do you say to them? Do they ask you that?
I don't know if they've asked me about it before, but I definitely have an opinion.
What's your opinion?
Well, the Bible says basically that if you lust after a woman even in your mind's eye, that you commit adultery in your heart. So, and a thought leads to an action leads to a habit leads to a character, and character leads to a destiny. So it starts with a thought, so it's in your best interest to not even let your mind go to those places, which is extremely difficult. I mean, let's be honest, this is probably the hardest thing to do.
Especially in this era of time where sex is everywhere. Television, billboards, you walk down the street, it's everywhere.
It cannot be, nothing can be sold without sex.
Nothing
can be sold without sex.
But what I would say, especially to the women, is like, if guys will say they love you, they'll tell you whatever, and they might even mean it when they say it. Because again, the Bible says the heart's deceitful above all things. So your heart will deceive you into believing something that might not be true, so that you give your flesh what it wants. So a guy might say he loves you, but if he's willing to marry you, and he'll wait to have sex until then he probably means it.
Don't hold that thought. Don't go there. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Stay locked in. It's Women Talk Live. We'll be right back.
And welcome back to Women's Talk Live. Oh gosh, our last segment was just, we got into it, and this is a great conversation.
It was a very good conversation.
Very informative.
We want to thank Rob.
Thank you, Rob, so much.
And sharing his thoughts with us and telling us about City Fam and how he has been able to counsel and continue to counsel not only the youth, but single people who want to follow that walk with Christ.
Right. So tell us, we'll tell our audience, if they want to get involved with City Fam, what do they do?
They can just go to the website. It's free to join the fam, and it's www.cityfam.com. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Okay, and what about the youth if they want to, because you do mentoring?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a website, so they can find it at Rob B. Kowalski, and that's ROBKOWALSKI.com.
Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
What would you say to that person that is abstinent, but is having these emotions and these feelings? Kind of think about backsliding a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
What would you say to him or her?
Wow. I've done it. I'm there now. It's difficult. It's a tension that you have to live in. It's like, imagine you look in the mirror. You're in really good shape, and you look and you're like, man, I look good. But you got to keep going to the gym, right?
Right.
It's the same thing. You got to keep working at it, and there is a payoff. Again, I hate to keep quoting verses, but the Bible does say that don't become weary in doing the right thing. That there will be a harvest if you don't give up. Everybody's got to go through the wilderness to get to their promised land.
Yes, they do.
There ain't no way around it.
Yes, they do.
That's dope. I like that.
All right, so thank our guest again, Rob, for coming in and having such a great conversation. So listen, I always end it with a final thought, and I try to keep it close to what we're talking about. So our final thought of the day is, I'd rather a man promote his intelligence than promote materialistic and replaceable items. All right, so
remember I said sapiosexual.
Exactly. All right, y'all. So join us next time on Women's Talk Live. Thank you for joining us. I am April J.
I'm Sassy Scribe.
And I'm Tyra Hill.
And thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next time.